Welcome back to the MTR Network. This is Chris here, and joining me today is not the usual reviewer I have with me. Phenom couldn't make this screener, unfortunately, so I'm bringing in People's Critic Tim from the West Coast. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? I'm sad Phenom couldn't make it, man. Shout
Oh
out to
man,
Phenom.
I thought he was gonna do his normal, Willis Reed pull in the last minute. Like he does that sometimes. I'm like, yo, damn, Phenom not gonna be here, and I'll text him. He's like, no, I'm here. I'm walking in now. And he walks in right when the lights
like Willis Reed.
Yeah, right when the lights are going down and the movie starts, he's walking in. But it's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 from James Gunn. And I'm really sad that Phenom couldn't make this one because this movie's fun as shit, yo.
Oh, dude, I was laughing the whole time. And I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was.
I will go out on a limb and say it's funnier than the first film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely funnier than the first film.
Yeah, this is.
They have to spend a lot of time setting up the characters. They just get right to the jokes immediately.
Right. I mean, well, so the way this film opens up, and again, this is not going to be a spoiler review, so anybody worried about spoilers, we'll do hopefully, when Phenom does see this, we'll get him on there, and I'll try to get, maybe I can get some other people, maybe Deepom and some others, and we'll do a spoiler review. But the movie opens up basically with a hilarious scene where the Guardians are trying to stop this creature, but the focus of most of the fight is on Baby Groot during the opening credits, dancing around.
Right. Yeah, he's more concerned with dancing to music than anything that's happening around him.
Right. Literally the biggest fight of all time is going on in the background, and the camera's focused on Baby Groot dancing. But it goes to something that I wanted to, the first thing I realized when that comes up. I remember, and this is something that I've seen with the Spider-Man trailer, Spider-Man Homecoming trailer, people complaining about this. And I've been trying to tell people, it's like, don't worry too much when you think you've seen too much in a Marvel trailer, because you probably haven't. I can now officially say that some of the stuff you think you saw too much of in Guardians was literally the opening credits of the movie.
Yeah. Or all from the same scene.
Yeah, or all from the same scene. Like, I don't think this is too big of a spoiler, because I think it's important. But yeah, that giant monster creature, that is the opening of the movie, guys.
Yeah.
This is a long movie too. I think it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Wow, is that long?
2 hours and 16. So it's not that long, but 2 hours and 16 minutes.
It didn't feel that long.
Yeah. But there is a lot here you go on in this film, and I think they've done a good job, and maybe it's just because I haven't been all up on the plot synopsis and the interviews and things like that, but I didn't know too much about what the storyline was going to be in this film. And I think they do a good job of you not, like, there's different pieces going on here, and they all come together later on at the end of the film. But you don't really know what the plot is of the film. Like, it was going to be a negative for me, because at one point I'm like, halfway through the film, I'm like, okay, where are they going with this?
Right.
And then when they do, you're like, oh.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's kind of a slow burn up until, like, you realize kind of what's happening.
Right.
You figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that one of the great things, and I think you just mentioned this about this film, is that you can, and if you think about it, they kind of did this with the first film too. You kind of just jump right in, right? So in the first film with the Guardians of the Galaxy, you didn't really get an introduction, like you didn't get an origin story for Star-Lord. He was already Star-Lord, Gamora was already Gamora. Rocket was already Rocket. Like, they were already who they were. All of them. You get an origin for them coming together as the Guardians of the Galaxy, but they were already established in the galaxy as, outlaws or assassins or whatever they were, right? Same thing kind of happens in this film here. It's like, I don't even know, did they say how long it's been since the last movie? I think they did. I think I might have forgotten it, though.
Yeah, it's brief, it's shortly after.
Yeah.
It's not that long. Yeah, they didn't really get into how long it was.
Right. But what you get is you get them jumping in, and then you realize how much from the first movie that they jumped into and they never really explained. So you get some information in this film here that I have in my notes that they tie up loose ends from the first movie you didn't really think about. Like, you get more information on the Gamora and Nebula relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big one that everybody knows is Peter and his father.
Mm-hmm.
You get some more information on Rocket and his behavior, which I think Again, it starts off on some. It was almost starting to annoy me. I was like, wait, is this whole entire movie his fault? And then things start to go around. You're like, okay, I'm getting more information about that. You get why
Even Xandu.
you say what?
Even Xandu, you get way more information on him.
Yeah. You get yeah, it's just a lot of this stuff you didn't they didn't dig too deep into in the first film. And so I feel like, and I guess this could be a negative. And I said this to some people after the movie. If there's one negative I have for this film, I feel like the story isn't as tight as the first film.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, it's not as tight.
Right, because the first film is pretty linear, right? It's okay. We you know they're going after they're going after the Infinity Stone. You got to stop. You know, it was very straightforward. In this film, you don't really get. I would say until like, I guess the last quarter of the movie is when you finally understand who the real enemy is, and what the real threat to the universe is that needs to be stopped. Up until that point, you get a lot of focused character moments.
Yeah. Drax has a bunch of moments.
Yeah, Drax. Drax is, I mean, everybody knows Baby Groot is going to steal the show, but Drax is literally like he might be
Drax
the MVP. He might be the MVP. Like Dave Bautista
absolutely.
is like he might be creeping up on. And granted, I think Dwayne Johnson has done more roles, but Dave Bautista is coming up on him in terms of successful wrestlers that became actors because he's totally latched onto this role, and it is amazing just the way he's doing it.
The best part about Drax in this movie is he's trying to have these like heartwarming moments with people. Like, he tried to talk to him very sincerely, and it's absolutely ridiculous because he's so literal.
Right. Like,
so it never really works.
He plays a practical joke once on Mantis, and it is so not a practical joke. It is, but he finds it absolutely hilarious. It is just he is such a dummy, and you would think that like it would be easy to say that you could put anybody in that role and they would kill it, right? Oh well, Dave Bautista's not really acting; he's just being stupid on screen. I'm going to disagree with anybody who says that. I feel like it takes real comedic timing to land some of the deadpan lines he does and the inappropriate laughing he does in this film. Like, it is masterful work because, like, I'm just thinking about some of those scenes, and it is amazing what he does there. But yeah, I feel like this is, and I think, you know, the story not being as tight is a negative, but I think that this film does what I think a lot of Marvel films do when it has that problem, is that they make it so that even if it's a pointless moment or pointless scene or something that's dragging on too long, they know how to interject in their cast and the way they shoot these films and the way they write these films. They have a way of making those moments still entertaining as hell. Yeah. So even if you think that this story is a mess, like I've seen some reviews, and I was really worried about going into this film that was going to happen. Like I saw some early reviews saying, "Oh well, you know, the script is a mess," and I think people overuse that term when it comes to scripts. I think they confuse a script doing a lot with it being a mess. And this one does a lot, but I think they bring it together pretty well towards the end. But there's so many fun moments, like literal laugh out loud moments in this film that, like, you almost got to forgive it.
Yeah, because I think, you know, for most Marvel movies, right, if you look at Civil War or The Winter Soldier or Avengers, right, they've got this really tight, quippy, quick dialogue that's, you know, really smart. And it sort of foregoes some of that for, like, bigger, broader sort of comedic moments. So it's not that it's bad. It's just different. Like, they're not going to focus on, like, these really tight-knit, you know, back and forth, but more, like, broader jokes where you'll get like Rocket will set up Star-Lord for a joke, or they'll have a really funny back and forth or whatever. I think that's the part that's different. I don't really think necessarily that it's bad. I think it's a different way, and it fits for that Guardians group.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, and this is something I noticed too. I feel like with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I think we'll see more of this when you go into Thor. Marvel is fully embracing their cosmic side.
Yeah.
Because this
I
movie,
love it.
oh yeah, because it's different. Like this is another one of the movies that you barely touch Earth. I mean, you have some moments on Earth, but you barely touch Earth, and it's so much bigger than the first film. Like they gave everybody, like in the first film, Star Lord. There was that one scene where Star Lord, when they're leaving the prison, and he's got the rocket boots, and he's flying out, and he's flying into his ship. This movie, basically, everybody has rockets, right? And so everybody's floating around, and they have no problem showing that all over the place. Like this is a visual masterpiece of a film, and they do not shy away from any of that. And it's weird. It's crazy. If they could go there, they go there with the visuals on that, and then on top of that, they add in the humor there. And like you said, it's just different from any other film. Like you don't expect that kind of humor in a Captain America movie.
Exactly. And then one thing, and shout out to James Gunn, man, 'cause I think he does a masterful job with these films. But the one thing that I remember as I was watching it, I was thinking that I really appreciated were two things. One was the music. Like the music, for some reason, is perfect for these films. I never thought to blend like old 70s, 80s movies music with like futuristic space stuff, right? But it somehow is like this perfect match. And the other thing I really enjoy is like the planet designs are really inventive, the spaceship designs, and much like kind of like Star Wars, you take a group like the Reavers and you can just have different creatures in them. And so you can have these really abstract designs. Like one guy's got like a crystal face or whatever. And you've got weird looking people. You've got like a planet with like robot prostitutes. So right. So you've got all these interesting designs, and that makes for a film that's fun to look at. It's not necessarily like, it's not just that it's visual appealing. Like there's always something that's grabbing your attention visually, and it stops you from being bored or with the film just looking at like the same humanoid body types over and over again. They go to a planet and you're looking at all kind of different people.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Somebody, I don't know if this was officially, I don't think it was officially done, but somebody did mashups of like the Guardians of the Galaxy with using like the Star Wars posters and things like that. And you're right. This film, it's like a blend of Star Wars and Star Trek. And I know people usually have that. Well, you're either Star Trek or you're Star Wars guy. Like I like both. And this is basically what the Guardians of the Galaxy is that for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They are their Star Wars and their Star Trek. Because like you said, like this film in the first film, you got a little bit of taste of different aliens out there. This film goes all in on that. Like they're, like you said, the Reavers have they're way more diverse with the type of creatures that there are Reavers. You got the planet designs, like it's just so many things out there that they did. Beyond that, there are a lot of small, like I'm about to watch this film again just to try to catch all the cameos and Easter eggs they put in there. Like there's a lot of them in here. There are some that are gonna be blatantly obvious. Like there's a couple that are from the first film. And they don't throw them at the end. Like they're thrown in like pretty liberally throughout the entire film. Like there's one that came in pretty early. I'm like, wait, is that who did they really? Okay. Right. A couple more during the end of the film that they throw in there that are pretty good. Like there are a lot of these things out there, and it just feels like Marvel was like, hey, you know what? The first film did really, really well financially. That means that people really like going into space, like the cosmic. Let's do the second film, and let's go even bigger, and let's do big, and let's expand the world beyond Earth, and do that. And it makes me really excited for like I said, and I'm always been a fan of this. If they get the Fantastic Four, holy shit, guys!
Man, I really hope so.
Like
I
there's
really do.
so much they can do here. I mean, they go there with so much in this film, and it is it's just like you said, it's appealing to see, not just because of the visuals, but also because of just the diversity of everything that's there, and it makes you ask even more questions about the world and what they could do. And now I'm really excited about Thor, because that's supposed to be also be out here in the world, off world too. What can they do there? You know?
Right. Yes, and Thor kind of has the same colorful visual
Mm-hmm.
sort of aesthetic to it. So I'm hoping it's a lot of the same with the creatures and different people that they'll be meeting on these planets. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, I'm hyped for it. And
Yeah.
also, I thought that the Stan Lee cameo was a nice little Easter egg as well.
Oh yeah, no, that's the Stanley cameo in here is really well done, and it involves, it's actually two cameos, because it's Stan Lee, but then there's another there's something else that's cameoed with him. That again, you're like, so we're going there? Okay, we're gonna
Yeah, that's
okay.
exactly what I said to
I
myself
was
too. I
like,
was like, oh, we're gonna do that. All right.
and it was done with almost no fanfare, and that's the great thing about it. Like when you see some of these cameos, they're not like big setups, like, oh, we're gonna save it for after seeing credit. No, they're just like, oh, we're just gonna do this right here, and you're gonna see it, and then we're gonna go on, and you're gonna be like, wait, did we just see what I think I just saw? Yeah, you did. Um, so Kurt Russell as Ego, Peter's
Mm-hmm.
father, is yeah, okay.
He's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if anybody else you would have gotten. Well, actually, no. There is somebody else they could have gotten, and they kind of did, but you just got to see the movie to get that joke. But
There
yeah,
is. I forgot. Yeah,
yeah,
there is.
that is. But no, it is. Yo, he's great as it. He's and they do this thing where they same thing they did in Ant-Man, where they kind of go back and they de-age him for a flashback scene.
Right.
Dude, like they're getting scary with this technology.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, between that, what they did in Rogue One, and now like they're getting scary with the de-aging techniques and making people who don't like that anymore look like that. Yeah,
Right.
not bad, not bad at all. They keep listing Vin Diesel as a voice of Baby Groot, but like that
He
might
can't be right.
I feel like maybe he is, and they're changing it digitally or something. Like I want to know how they're doing that because
Right.
it doesn't sound anything like Vin Diesel, but they list him as that. I need to look that up and find out how they're doing that. But obviously, like Groot was a standout star in the first film. They make him he's because of what happened in the first film. He's now a baby, and he's fucking adorable.
Yeah. I walked out of there thinking they're gonna sell so many Baby Groot toys.
Oh,
So many of them.
yeah.
Like, and he's fun. He's a fun little character.
Fun little character. Rocket is Rocket, and you get more of him. But he's just as smart, much of a smart ass, and just an overall pain in the ass as he was in the first film. He gets more to do. He got a really good action scene in this film.
Yeah.
I thought was really great. Him being just a jackass as well.
Just being a dick while he's doing
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yandu, Michael Rooker is always just he's I always feel like I owe him an apology because
Why?
because I always see him as a racist. Like
I know, right?
like,
he was too good as Merle, man.
right? Like I always see him as Merle, no matter what he's doing, and it sucks because he got some really good moments in this film, and some really this film. Another thing that I think will catch people off about this film, there are some really good emotional moments in this film, and
Yeah.
I think that again, the villain problems aside, I think what the Marvel Cinematic Universe does a really good job of is, in lieu of having villains, they do a really good job of still connecting you with the heroes and the characters and giving them things to do. Like, how can I put this? In the Nolan Batman films, I feel like Batman was used to move the plot along, and the real focus was always really on the villains, right? The
Right.
villains
Right.
were what really were really the driving force, and that's why the villains are so bad. The Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't really have good villains, and that's something that's been written about for a long time now. People say that they have a villain problem, and honestly, technically, I agree they do. But where I disagree is that instead of making the focus on the villains are just there to move the plot along, and the focus is on the heroes and their character and character development, and that's what we get. And there's a lot of really weighty and meaty character development in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Like some really you get motivating factors for why Nebula hates Gamora so much.
Right.
There are some moments that might actually get to you with Peter and his father, and the emotions there. There's a surprisingly emotional moment between Yondu and Rocket. Like there are some really surprisingly human and emotional moments in this film that once again make you go, "Oh yeah, who is the villain of this film? Like what is the plot?" And again, I feel like the plot comes together towards the end, but what holds your attention up to that point are these characters, and they have some really sad moments. I mean, shit. There's one moment that's a really small one with Mantis and Drax.
Right.
That happens there. So there is some there's a lot there that I think is enough to keep your attention and keep you going, and it really fleshes out characters that, to be perfectly honest, were just dropped into our laps in the first film.
Right. Right. Yeah, they do a really good job of like the first 3/4 of the film focusing on the characters and sort of their motivations and what's been driving them, that we don't know about or we learn more about. And I thought that was kind of a smart way to approach a second movie.
Right. Because you got to think about it, in the first film, again, like I said before, they were literally just dropped into our laps, and the whole thing about them was here's a band of people that just met each other, don't know anything about each other, don't really care, but they got to come together as the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were called as a joke, right? And they sometimes they didn't even like each other. So now you go into this film and you find out that because they still have those problems there. Like, there's still a group of people that doesn't know a whole lot about each other, and like there's and some of them do. Like you find out Peter has told the story to Gamora about what he used to tell the kids when they were talking about their fathers, and he felt left out. Like that was a sad like story. It was kind of funny because of how they some of the things that were said in there, and Gamora not knowing some of the pop culture references, which is always hilarious in this film. Like
this doesn't get any of them.
It doesn't get any of those. And at one point, I think she screamed at somebody like, "I don't know what that means." Like,
yeah, she did at the end of the movie.
But the emotions in that scene and what Peter's saying is real, because you've heard of other kids doing this. You've heard of kids lying about who their father was or who their parents were, and saying, "Oh no, he's this rich actor, he's this rich person here, and he's out there doing this," and lying because they don't want to admit that they don't know who their father is. Like, it is a real, legit emotional moment, and there's a ton of those in this film here, and it's just really, really fun, man. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It's a lot of fun, and the fun part is, with everything you said, they're able to do all of that and still do like this badass action stuff in the film as well.
Yeah.
So all the characters are still very believable as like these sort of like, whether it be hand-to-hand combat or weapons or explosives or whatever. That's all still believable. None of that feels fake. That's there on top of like all this emotional connection and these characters and their personal relationships and what's been keeping them motivated. All that's in there in this sort of 2-hour comic book movie. It's a lot. It's a lot to pack into one movie, man. Yeah. They do a really, really good job of it.
Yeah, and you're right. Like I said, I thought it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, closer to 2 hours 30, but it was only 2 hours and 16. Which, again, when you think about everything they do in this film, it's a lot. Like, they pack in, you get your money's worth.
Like there aren't a lot of wasted moments. Like,
no.
Even the opening feels wasted at first. Like, just an opening, and you realize, oh, no, this is tied into, like, things that happen throughout the rest of the movie.
Exactly. And I think that's what happened with me. Like, again, I was like halfway through the movie, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to see what people were saying about the story not being as tight and this and it being a little disjointed. Because I was feeling that, and but I was like, but I'm still having fun. You know, I don't feel like I'm about to rip my eyes out of my socket or something like that, or I feel like there's an editing problem here. But then as the film goes on and they start bringing the different pieces together, you start seeing it's like, oh, okay, that's why they did that here. That's why this happened. Like, again, without going into spoilers, Rocket does something at the beginning of the film, and you're like, that's fucking stupid. What's wrong with you? And it causes consequence. Like, the first, I would say, half of the movie, you're like, man, this is you're the reason why there's a fucking villain in this. Like, you did it. But then everything starts to come together, and you start realizing there's certain things happening there. There's not a lot of wasted moments in here. I think I don't know who played Mantis. She was pretty good. The pairing of her and Drax together are good because neither one of them knows how to have the right emotional range for human interaction. Like they're so awkward with human interactions that they make a great pair. And you put them two together, and it's just very, very awkward. But it's awkward in its own purpose. I know who was the chick who played the head of the Sovereign.
Who is that? I know who she is.
Elizabeth Debicki. Yeah. I would say that if there's anything, Aisha and the Sovereign, they had a purpose, but. And I don't want to say they weren't used to their full potential. They're not what you're expecting. Like, you're going to be expecting one thing from the trailer and the film. And I'll put it this way. There's a certain level of seriousness, I think, you're going to go in expecting to treat them with. And it's not going to really be that.
No, they're kind of like the rich assholes in those 80s movies.
Right.
Like the group of snobby people who show up and just are like, yeah. You're not gonna get one over on me, and they're always sort of meddling in whatever the hero's doing.
Right, and that's what they feel like. Yeah, they feel like that. They feel like because this movie does have such a heavy '80s feel to it, even with the opening with Kurt Russell. Because it has that feel to it, I feel like that the Sovereign and Aisha were put there for that purpose as well. They're, like you said, they're the rich snobby 80s villain, but not really villain in the film. Well, they're the side villain, if you will, I guess. And nobody really takes them seriously, but they want to be taken seriously. So they have them.
The one thing I appreciated though, they did a really good job explaining Ego and sort of his connection to the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
Because I was like, how are they going to explain this and how are they going to visually show this?
Yes.
And they did a really good job of, like, if I knew nothing about it, I could walk out there saying, okay, I understand how he fits into this whole piece.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
If you think about it, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to go further because I don't want to go into too many spoilers. Like I said, when we get, I think if Deepam and I have talked about Ego before and who Ego is, and like go back and find that stuff, and when we get a spoiler review in, I'll try to get Deepam on to give us some more some good Marvel history on some of this stuff. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised and pleased with how they handled him, and some of the name dropping they do around him is very, very good. And like I said, man, we're just let it go, Fox. Let it go. Let the Fantastic Four go. They let them go. We are going to be in for a fucking treat if that happens, because man, like the MCU is definitely taking on the cosmic, and between this and hopefully what they do with Thor, I'm really excited about this, and hell, maybe even what they do with Captain Marvel,
Right.
So I'll be really excited about that. So, last thing. So there's a lot of big noise made about the 5 post-credit scenes in this film. I would say that it's really the normal 2, and like the other 3 are basically, as the credits are playing, something funny happens. Like, I think at least 3 of them are just funny scenes. I think 2 of them, actually maybe only just one of them. I think only really one of them is really a a teaser for a future movie, if you will. But the rest of them are just kind of funny moments in there. And if you watch the credits, there's a thing they do with the credits where some of the crew's names start off as I am Groot, and they change them to their real name. So I mean, there are 5 post credit scenes, but to be perfectly honest, if Marvel's always gonna put like one post credit scene all the way at the end, then I would like them to do what they did in Guardians of the Galaxy, because basically it makes it easier for you to sit throughout the credits. Because here there's just some funny little character like the Swarma teaser in Avengers. It's things like that that don't really move the plot forward or anything like that. But like there's a scene with Groot and Star-Lord. So another one with there's just a couple of little funny scenes, and there's like 1 or 2 that are I think pretty much just one that really kind of ties into something happening going forward. But
this guy in my theater cheered out loud when that happened.
There's a lot of that in my theater too.
This guy's feeling it. Yeah, I was like, oh, he gets it.
Yeah. This guy gets it. This guy gets it.
That guy gets it.
So yeah, man, this is just a really fun and great movie. I really think that I know I'm gonna get accused of being a DC hater. I think this is what I think this is what David Ayers wanted to do with Suicide Squad. But the studio kind of came in and edited and re-edited. And I've always said this about Suicide Squad. I think Suicide Squad was probably a better movie with Ayers' cut that we'll never see.
I would love to see that Ayers cut.
Exactly. I would too, because I think you can tell when the studio, you can tell that WB came in and they messed with what a director was doing who had creative control. With Guardians of the Galaxy, you see what happens when you give a director creative control over something, and it'll say, "Hey, go have fun." And that's what you get with Guardians of the Galaxy. I honestly think that they'll do a better job with Suicide Squad 2. I think they've learned I'm hoping they've learned their lesson there. And I'm really excited about Wonder Woman from them. June 2nd. I just gotta keep saying people that because
it's June 2nd.
Yeah, I'm feeling they're not promoting that enough. But yeah, man, I really feel like this is just a really, really fun film. And the other thing too is it pretty much stands on its own. Like there isn't, and if you think about it, outside of Civil War II, I see the same thing with Doctor Strange. They did it with Ant-Man. Like they've done a good job with some of these films being able to stand alone and not be, because that was one of the complaints they had like with Iron Man 2. It felt like, oh, it's just there to move you to the next Avengers movie or to move you to this or that. That's not what this feels like. This feels like maybe moving into the next Guardians movie, but there's not even a feeling of, hey, yeah, this is how the Guardians of the Galaxy end up in the next Avengers movie. Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Right. Nope. It doesn't feel like it's trying to like pull itself along. I mean, it definitely takes place in the same universe, and it feels like that, but it doesn't feel like it has to be attached to something else greater than itself. Like it's kind of its own thing, and it's fun. Like that's the to me that was the word that kept popping up in my head. Like it's fun in ways that most of these new comic movies aren't fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like we're here to have fun, tell some funny jokes, do some action. It's very much fun in the way 80s movies used to just be fun. Like there was no serious point. There was like, hey, there's a kid at school who's trying to get out of detention, and that's the movie. And a bunch of silly shit happens for an hour and a half. And it's kind of in the same vein of that. It's like it's a bunch of rejects figuring out themselves, and it's one of them is trying to meet his father and trying to figure out who his father is. Yeah. And that's the story.
You know what it reminded me of in I'm going to give a studio credit that I never get credit. Deadpool. Like it's it sits on its own. It does what it needs to do, and it has fun and enjoys itself, and it's in a well, not really. Deadpool didn't really feel that way, but actually kind of did. Deadpool, even some kind of way, felt like it was part of a larger universe, even if Fox hasn't shown us what that new universe is. It feels that way.
Right.
But yeah, man, this is just a really, really fun film. Out of 10, what would you give it?
I give it a solid 9. Give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna go with an 8.5. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's about where it's at with me. Like, I've seen people say not as good as the first film. I hate that comparison because I feel like they're doing two different things.
Right.
Like in a way, like I said, I feel like I laughed more at this film than I did the first film. Like Rocket has some really ridiculous moments, and then there's like the whole baby Groot thing. Like there's a moment where they're literally treating him like a baby, and like they're passing him along. Like it's just
Yeah.
there's a whole thing with baby Groot and Drax too that goes unsaid. I love how they don't really address it throughout the entire
Right.
movie, but baby Groot and Drax do not get along.
No.
But like it's yeah, so I don't know. I feel like the story I guess was I don't know, it felt smaller. I don't know if smaller is the right word. I don't know what the word is to say about the story in Guardians of the Galaxy. That might have been more. It was just different. It was probably easier to follow and more linear. But I don't know if I can say that one was better than the other. I think they both served different purposes, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I think people will be very very happy if you enjoyed the first film. I think you're gonna. There's no way you don't enjoy the second film.
Yeah.
Like,
There's no way you don't like the second
you
film.
you got to stick up your ass if you do. Like I'm sorry, I just cannot believe that you do not. Like I was saying before. Well, it wasn't as good as the film, and I didn't enjoy it. No, come on, you didn't like.
Like, how do you not enjoy the movie? Like, you
Like,
don't have to love it, but how do you not say, okay, that was fun for
Right.
2 hours?
Right. I mean, it's just there are some literal laugh out loud. I can't believe they did that joke moments in this film.
There's a lot of those moments.
Right, way more than the first film. So
Way more.
Right,
And it's good, but it flows. None of it
Yeah.
feels like we're stopping the film to tell this joke and then we have to move on. Like, it all comes in the flow of the film.
Yep.
So it works. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If anyone doesn't like this film, they're just upset.
You're
all
a
the time.
hater. You're a hater. All right. Well, Tim, thank you very much for joining me, man. Where can folks
Appreciate it.
find you at, man?
They can find me on Twitter, People's Critic, CRTIC. You can find me, my blog, the People's Critic blog. Check out, got some reviews coming. It's almost Seattle Film Festival season, so I have a lot of interviews and random movies that we're watching at the festival. So
Awesome.
look
Man.
forward to that.
Awesome. And again, keep your eye open for mtrnetwork.net. We'll be changing soon, hopefully, to the new format and to the new site, and got some really cool stuff coming out for you soon. So keep an eye open for that. And until next time, we are out of here. Peace.